Dr. Ben Carson, a man known for his calm demeanor and sharp intellect, steps into The View. And let's just say, it didn't go the way Whoopi Goldberg and her co-hosts had planned. They thought they could corner him, outsmart him, and dismiss him. But Carson delivered a masterclass in composure and left the panel scrambling. What he said has everyone talking. And trust me, you'll want to stick around to the end of this one. The episode kicks off with Whoopi Goldberg, in her signature confrontational tone, trying to probe into Dr. Carson's political decisions. She wastes no time diving into the topic that's clearly been on her mind. Whoopi. Dr. Carson, I have to ask, why on earth would you endorse Donald Trump? You're Ben Carson. I just don't get it.
Question a lot, but why did you endorse Donald Trump?
Carson, calm and unbothered, leans in slightly and responds with a measured, thought-provoking explanation. Dr. Carson, you know, Whoopi, that's a great question. When I stepped away from the race, I initially planned to stay neutral. But then I saw the establishment aligning to protect their turf. They don't want outsiders in Washington. They want control. That's why they didn't like me. And that's why they feared Trump. I couldn't sit back and watch the status quo destroy this country. The crowd grows quiet. You could practically hear the tension in the room.
Well, you know, when I dropped out, my first choice went with me. But I said that...
It was you, right?
You know, I was going to remain neutral. But then I realized that, you know, the political establishment was aligning to protect their turf. And they don't like the idea of people who are not beholden to them and who cannot be controlled coming into Washington, D.C. And that was one of the reasons they didn't like me very much, but I was easier to get rid of than Donald Trump.
Sunny Hostin, always ready to play prosecutor, jumps in with her usual intensity. Sunny. But Dr. Carson, let's talk about Trump's rhetoric. About women, minorities, and immigrants. Doesn't that conflict with your values? Carson smiles slightly, as if anticipating the question, and responds with grace. Dr. Carson, we live in a world where people are imperfect, but actions speak louder than words. When Trump went to Palm Beach, he broke barriers by insisting on inclusivity at clubs that traditionally excluded Jews and blacks. That's the Trump I know. Someone who sees potential, not labels.
Sir, I hate to ask this question, but you have aligned yourself with a man who has bashed women, made countless racist remarks, and you're Ben Carson. Why would you align yourself with that?
Well, you know, you have to look at the good and the bad. There is no perfect person.
No, I know that.
But you know, you look at when Donald Trump first went down to Palm Beach area, and you know, a lot of the clubs down there would not accept Jews and blacks. He insisted on Jews and blacks and helped to break that open. So has he said some things that I wouldn't say or that you wouldn't say? Of course.
Sunny, clearly unsatisfied, fires back. Sunny, but what about the lawsuits in the 70s over housing discrimination? That doesn't sound very inclusive. Carson doesn't miss a beat. Sunny, as someone who has employed thousands of people over decades, Trump's record speaks for itself. I've met his employees, from all backgrounds, and they speak highly of him. You can cherry-pick moments, but the bigger picture tells a different story.
He was also sued by the Justice Department in the 70s for not allowing black tenants into his properties, and he settled with the Justice Department, even though he didn't admit any liability, any wrongdoing. It's very clear to those of us in the law that that means that there was something amiss, and it was a significant consent decree. So the notion that he is a fan of the African-American community, I think is...
Well, I will put it this way. I have met a lot of his employees, including African-Americans, and they have nothing but good things to say. Somebody who's hired as many people as he has hired, and you can find very few people who have anything negative to say.
Well, what about
and then you have to look at his family. I always say one of the ways that you measure a person is looking at their children and how do their children act.
Well, one's a big game hunter. I'm not thrilled with that.
Was that your laptop?
For real, I don't know.
I know, but you know this is
I really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is.
You don't know yes or no if the laptop
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea. I have no idea.
So could have been yours.
Of course, certainly. There could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me.
Well, I mean, that's your privilege. But the fact of the matter is, you know, they have been raised very well. They're very respectful. And, you know, I look at a lot of kids who come from very wealthy families, and I am appalled at what I see. So there is no perfect person, but what I think is really the worst thing that threatens our nation right now is a political class, a ruling class, and they are so threatened by anybody who is not beholden to them, they will do virtually anything.
But Whoopi wasn't going to let Carson off the hook that easily. She shifts gears, attempting to frame Trump as a divider. Whoopi, Dr. Carson, don't you think Trump's words have fueled division in this country? I mean, he's said things that are just toxic. Carson takes a deep breath, remaining unshaken.
And I think that's
you
what's
could say
likely
that
to
till the
destroy
cows come home, sir. This guy is, I'm sorry, he's a racist, and he's not good for the country.
What's the alternative?
And I'm sorry, I don't understand. He's not said about the white supremacists. He hasn't really said to them, hey, listen, that's not what America stands for. He said, you know, it's too much. You're Ben Carson. You're so much better than that.
Whoopi, division existed long before Trump. The difference now is that he's exposed the cracks in the system that people like you have ignored for decades. You talk about unity. But where was that unity when policies were being passed that hurt the very communities you claim to care about? The audience erupts into a mix of cheers and murmurs. Carson has struck a nerve.
I am Ben Carson. And that's the very reason I'm doing this, is because I look at the big picture. Could I focus only on racial issues? Absolutely.
Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
On March 25th, 1977, Biden wrote, "My bill strikes at the heart of the injustice of court-ordered busing. It prohibits the federal courts from disrupting our educational system." Biden sought and received support from Mississippi Senator James Eastland, the Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and a leading symbol of Southern resistance to desegregation. He frequently spoke of blacks as, quote, an inferior race. Biden reflected on that era earlier this year.
They're a bunch of racists. You know, there was, James O. Eastland, Mississippi, Strom Thurmond, and so on. There were 9 guys who were in the caucus that were, I ran against in the civil rights movement.
But he did not say that Eastland and others were partners on several of Biden's anti-busing bills. On June 30th, 1977, Biden wrote, "Dear Mr. Chairman, I want you to know that I very much appreciate your help during this week's committee meeting in attempting to bring my anti-busing legislation to a vote." Then in 1978, Biden again asked Eastland to put his anti-busing bill before the full Senate, writing, "Your participation in floor debate would be welcomed."
And black people saved your political life in the primaries this year. They have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
In a desperate attempt to regain control, Whoopi deflects. Whoopi. But what about his comments about women? Would you tolerate those if they were directed at your wife? Carson, now visibly tired of the deflections, responds with clarity. Whoopi, if we judged every leader solely on their worst moments, none of us would have anyone to look up to. What matters is the direction they're taking this country. We're at a crossroads. Are we going to focus on the sensational headlines, or are we going to address the issues that truly matter, like education, jobs, and national security?
Could I focus only on women's issues? Absolutely. I could look at any one little thing and pick anybody apart on it. But right now, the nature of our country is at stake. We are on the precipice.
Exactly what we're
and
worried about.
we are determining what kind of nation we're going to be. Are we going to be a nation that's upformed by the people or upformed by the government? This is a choice that we are making right now.
Okay, if you're going to overlook what he says about women, if you're going to overlook what he says about African Americans, what about what he said about you? He basically said that you had a pathological disease. Wait a minute, hold on. He even compared you to a child molester. Come on. Well, it could be personal, even.
If it were about me, I would be offended. But it's about America. We have to save this nation. That is what's important.
But he's a liar. Unless you say that you're a child molester, he's a liar. Do you want a liar for the president?
I had a very close relationship with the Greek-American community, for real. I am Joe Bidenopoulos. I grew up in a heavily Irish Catholic community in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and a heavily Italian Polish community. When I say I got raised in the black church, he knows I'm not kidding. The Persian culture is amazing. As a student of Persian culture, I probably went to shul more than many of you. I come out of the black community. The background of my family is Irish American. Not fundamentally unlike the Palestinian people. I might say raised in the synagogues in my state. Everyone in town was either Polish or Italian. I grew up feeling self-conscious. My name didn't end in an SKI. I was raised in a neighborhood where I felt self-conscious. My name didn't end in O. That's kind of how I was raised, like so many Americans of Irish heritage. Rabbis, synagogues, and Jewish community centers in your hometown, and that's the tradition I got raised. Hard-working people, middle class, the neighborhoods I got raised in. I was raised on GM. I was raised by Danny Inouye. I was raised by a righteous Christian. I got raised on automobiles.
Carson then delivers the line that silences the entire room. Let me tell you something. When you focus on tearing people down instead of building this country up, you're not solving anything. And frankly, that's what's wrong with politics today. Whoopi opens her mouth to respond but hesitates. Carson's words have hit hard, and she knows it.
You want a liar for the president?
Tell me a politician who doesn't tell lies.
Abraham Lincoln. I don't know.
A current day politician.
But the lying that he does is continuous.
Let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
You have.
I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I'd abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
President Biden has made a decision to pardon his son Hunter ahead of the transfer of power to President-elect Donald Trump, according to a senior White House official with direct knowledge of the decision.
It's on a regular basis.
Well, again,
Fact check goes berserk when he talks. He's got a long Pinocchio nose.
What I have to do is look at who is most likely to oppose the ruling class that is ruining our country.
Yeah, well.
Who is likely?
He's in the ruling class.
Who is likely?
He is the ruling class.
He said that there would be room for you in his cabinet, in his administration. Did he make any promises to you, and is that behind your endorsement?
No, not at all. And in fact, you know, we agreed that we want to save this nation, particularly for the next generation, and talked about a variety of ways to do it. I'm continuing to work on mechanisms of presenting ladders of opportunity that will allow the downtrodden in our society to climb out of the state of dependency. Right now, the programs that have been put forth by both Democrats and Republicans for the last few decades are doing nothing but creating more dependency. We've gone from a can-do nation to a what can you do for me nation. It's not a good thing, and it's not helping America, and it's not helping the world.
As the interview winds down, Carson takes the opportunity to call out the hypocrisy in the room. Dr. Carson, you've spent so much time criticizing Trump, but where's the accountability for leaders who failed these communities for decades? It's easy to point fingers, but it's harder to create solutions. That's what I'm here for. The crowd, unsure whether to cheer or jeer, sits in stunned silence. Even Sonny, usually quick to retort, seems at a loss for words.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Carson, and we know each other. I will say my husband went to Hopkins Medical School, and you and your wife and your family were always so gracious to us by inviting us into your home many times, fellowship, dinner. And so I know you are a man of family values. What do you make of the fact that Donald Trump just yesterday is attacking Ted Cruz's wife based on her looks.
Look, I do
and
not.
has attacked other women.
I do not condone any of that. I don't condone it
but
from
you've
anybody.
endorsed him. Isn't that implicit in that endorsement?
No.
Aren't you
Implicit
endorsing
in the endorsement
his behavior?
is not an endorsement of anything that anybody has said or done throughout their lives.
Dr. Ben Carson walked into The View with facts, composure, and an unwavering belief in his mission. The co-hosts tried to corner him, but instead, they got a lesson in grace under pressure.
The reason, again, that I'm endorsing him is because I recognize that we are heading down the exact same path that we have been on all along. These political types are very slick, and they get you to believe that everything's different now. Now we're going to be wonderful people, and we're not going to be doing this to the populace anymore. And that is absolutely not true.
Do you really think that Trump is correct in saying that people will, you know, be up in arms, quote unquote, riot, he said that, if they did not choose him as the nominee?
I don't think that there would be a physical riot, but I think it would absolutely destroy the Republican Party. There is no way that people who are coming in droves now to support Trump enthusiastically are just going to say, oh, well, whoever you pick is going to be fine.
Is that responsible of him to say, you know, they'll be rioting? I mean, sort of throw gasoline on the fire like that? Is that responsible?
That's really not the point. I mean, we can look.
Well, what's the point?
Well, no, we can look at all these things that politicians and people in the political sphere say.
Yeah.
Or we can say, what are the true issues? It's sort of like what's going on with some of these rallies, where, you know, we've seen some violence.
All of his antics are covering over the true issues. That's the problem. His antics are covering over the true issues.
Right, the true issue is the First Amendment of America and the freedom of speech. And we need to be looking at those kinds of issues. Everybody needs to be looking at those issues, not just one side or the other side. And the fact of the matter is, when you look at these rallies that are going on, do you ever see that happening in a Clinton or Bernie Sanders rally?
They're not promoting. Why not?
No, you don't.
Why not?
Why not?
Because people on the right don't do that. People on the left do that.
And people on the left don't say, you know, go punch him if you want to, or I take him out on a stretcher. I haven't heard that on the left.
Enter into the record, Mr. Chairman. This is article opinion from, I believe, the Washington Post by Robert Kagan. A Trump dictatorship is increasingly inevitable. We should stop pretending. This article compares Trump to Caesar and attempts to justify the assassination of President Trump. And I think even though we want to dodge around it and not make this partisan, I think we all know that a lot of this has to do with the rhetoric, the very violent rhetoric that has led up to this. Thank you. I yield back.
You're missing my point.
What's your point?
What is the point?
What is it?
You're missing the point. The point is that we have to focus on the things that are essential to America, like First Amendment rights, not personalities. That's the problem. We always want to focus on personalities.
But you've met with Donald Trump behind closed doors. Have you seen any evidence that he's really not the bombastic, sort of baiting personality?
You said there were the two.
Are there two Donald Trumps?
There are.
Yeah. Well, which one is running for president? Which one?
Who have you seen? Tell us who you have seen.
Well, I have seen a man who's actually willing to sit down and engage in deep, serious conversations about the problems that affect our country.
Well, why is he holding out on America?
I have seen a man who actually recognizes that he doesn't know everything.
And he doesn't think that's going to work in his election if he shows that side of him? Or is that more of like a male thing I have to show? Yeah, is that more of a male thing?
I think you're going to see more of that side of him coming up.
So he might be, so in fact,
did you
notice in the last... He might be fooling his own constituency.
Did you notice in the last debate that he wasn't nearly as bombastic?
Yes.
Did you notice that?
I did.
That was he's transitioning now into general election.
But sir,
you know, I think you're going to continue to see that.
I'm sorry.
But again, there's no perfect person.
No, there isn't a perfect person, but if you're running for president of the United States of America, a country which has said to other countries, bring me the folks that you need who need freedom. We're here for you. When you talk about Mexicans being rapists and murderers, when you talk to women, if he had spoken to your wife the way he's spoken to some of these women, would you take that, sir?
Let me tell you something. When you're very nice, you're very respectful, you talk about the real issues and not get into all these issues, where does it get you? It gets you where it got me.
What do you think? Did Dr. Carson handle this with class? Or do you think Whoopi and her co-hosts had valid points? Let me know in the comments below.